this meeting to order. All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So there's no changes to the agenda. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved. Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Open forum. I don't see anybody here.
Are we on that? Mr. Mayor? I want to ask if there's anybody.
Is there anybody that wants to say anything in open forum that is not present here in the council chambers? Okay. We're on to the consent agenda. Approve of the minutes, bills, purchase orders, investments, tobacco license. There's also a couple donations here. Resolution number 2020-64, a donation from Jim and Nancy Mose in the amount of $300 towards the Melrose Fire Department. Thank you very much. And also resolution number 2020-66, donation from the Lions Club, $1,000 to the Melrose Fire Department. And just want to thank everybody for supporting our community. Tri-Cap bus service agreement, receptionist step increase. So that's consent agenda. Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. We have a presentation tonight to Madam Member George Jensen. George has been part of our community for a long time. I guess I had the pleasure to work with George on the council in MATA, but also with that, he was on the CEC, the Parks and Rec Board, the Lions, and he's also in the Legion. So the man has served his community, his country, and he's done a lot for all of us here. One thing I want to say about George, when I first was elected on the city council back in '06, you have a lot of people that start talking to you because you're a new person. And I had a couple people ask me about a specific issue. And I remember like, yeah, we need to do some change. And I just remember, expressing my plight. And I just remember George said, was it just 2 or 3 people or was it a lot? Is it the same people? Who are these people? But it made me think that, I have to vote for the community as a whole, vote for 3,622 people. I can't just vote for, 1 or 2 or 3 people. We have to make our decisions for the whole community and what's the better good. So that's one thing that I learned from George, and his passion for seeing our community grow, especially in MATA the last few years. It's been fun seeing different things that we can do for our community. So George, I just want to give you a little award, take a picture, and we do have a little gift for you if that's okay.
Okay.
All right. Here's a certificate for you.
Crooked, can you straighten it?
Oh, no, stay there.
I like sticking
It's
out
straight, can you straighten it?
I like sticking out my tongue.
Just a minute.
And so just want to give you a little thing here, a little travel bag and a cup for your coffee in the morning.
Good. Thank you.
So just want to say thanks for everything that you do and you continue to do for the community, especially on the Lions and on the Legion. I appreciate you. I've learned a lot from you and hope you stay involved with everything else and give me a call every once in a while.
We'll do that, Joe.
So let's give George a nice round of applause for everything. Thanks again, George.
Thank you, George.
That wasn't so bad, was it, George?
Not too bad.
Okay, we are on to reports. Police Department monthly report. Greg, are you there?
I am.
All right.
So for November 2020 in our traffic area, we had 18 citations, 65 verbal warnings, 10 written warnings. For the month of November 2020, we had 267 calls and requests for service. Last year was 320. We ended on ICR 3520 and last year was 3987. So we're down about 467 calls for the year overall. 29 agency assist, which is normal for us. Nothing of major note for anything unless there's questions from the council.
Does anybody have any questions?
Nope.
All right. Thank you, Craig.
Thank you.
Our city attorney report won't be, Scott is not here tonight, so we'll go to our city engineer report. Yes.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, there's not a lot to report this month, but we have been making some progress on the County Road 65 drainage problem. The contractor has kind of offered a financial solution. Gary and I have looked at the sagging the pipe out there, and we don't think that it's going to be a major long-term maintenance issue, so we're looking at a financial reimbursement from the contractor. I didn't get a chance to discuss that with Colleen today, but we'll be working on that this next month and hopefully have a resolution for the council to consider in January. The survey work has been done for the Fifth Avenue flooding study, and we should have discussion results ready for discussion in February with some options to look at there. So the only other thing is the 2021 project, and we'll be discussing that in more detail under 7C. So that's all I've got, unless you have some questions.
No. Thank you, Mike.
That's good. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
City administrator report. Clean.
So there are several items that are contained within the agenda itself, but the two things that I would like to bring up under the city administrator report is that the state of Minnesota did pass a business relief package for businesses. I was on a phone call today with Deed, and basically those businesses that have had to have a pause in their services or have been significantly impacted by COVID will be getting checks from the Minnesota Department of Revenue directly. So it does not have to go through the CARES Act funds. It doesn't have to go through us for a loan process. The key was, and they heard it loud and clear, is they needed to get the information in their hands as quick as possible. So those businesses could get anywhere from $15,000 up, and there's criteria about, you know, the size of the business, that type of thing. So that is the one thing I did want to mention. The other thing that I did want to mention is the governor did have a new emergency order that was put in place as of yesterday. Fitness centers are able to open up as of Saturday. They talked about education and being able to open up elementary schools after the first of the year, and then restaurants and bars are still on a pause until the 11th of January for indoor dining. They did talk about outdoor dining, that they could do that, but we live in Minnesota, so I'm not really sure how that would work. But at any rate, that's kind of where they're at. The county, or the deed, is also going to be dispersing funds to the counties. And Stearns County has a meeting on Monday, so we'll find out more about that after Stearns County meeting on Monday and how they will be getting that to the cities. So that's what I have in my report, and then again, I have other things that I will be going over throughout the agenda. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Queen. All right, it is 6:08. This is a public hearing for the 2020 budget and levy, the resolution number 2020-65. Tessa?
All right. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, member of the council. Tonight we have the truth and taxation hearing, which is required to do annually. I'll go over various processes such as our budget process, the levy, our spending, and some of our capital planning. To start with, City Council and staff have had 3 workshops this year to go over our budget. We held our preliminary one in August, and that was to adopt our preliminary budget. And then we added a second one for October and one more in November to go over this in a little more detail. The City Council, as I mentioned, adopted the preliminary budget and levy in September, and that was submitted to Stearns County to prepare the truth and taxation notices that were mailed to all the property owners. Our goal when looking through our annual budget is to develop a budget that's realistic and achievable for operations. We look at future funding sources as well as future spending needs. One heavy topic of conversation this year was relating to those future funding sources and the possibility of having our local government aid cut. Also, we review our 5 to 10 year capital plan to look at what our saving needs are for future projects. And then with that, we try to maintain a stable tax rate for our residents and businesses. The purpose of tonight's Truth and Taxation hearing is to discuss our budget, to discuss our proposed tax levy, explain any increases or changes, and hear any questions or comments on this. First, I'll go over explaining the property tax methods. First off, we have our tax capacity, and this is the total value of all of the properties in the city, and that's based off of the market value of those properties, as well as the different statutory class rates, whether it's residential or commercial. That tax capacity amount is determined by Stearns County and given to the city, and then that is taken as a percentage of our levy that we adopt, and that's what determines the estimated tax rate. And that tax rate percentage is what's applied to each individual property, and that determines the taxpayer's liability. One big thing that we've discussed is how do we compare with other cities. Melrose is that dotted line, as you can see, kind of right in the middle. We trend fairly steady. For 2021, I don't have all of the other cities' final numbers yet because they're still in the process of it. We have until the end of the month to certify those. Looking at our history for market value, you can see an upward trend in the value of properties in our city, and this is also relating to new properties being built, as well as additions happening. And our tax capacity, as I mentioned previously, this is what determines the tax rate that's applied to taxpayers. For 2021, it's estimated just shy of 2.5 million. So there are a number of reasons of why taxes can change for properties. This can be the value of the property change, other values surrounding you. It could be because of the city budget and levy change, a township, county, school district, if there's assessments added, aid from the state or federal aid. There's a number of reasons that play into that. For Melrose, looking ahead at our proposed 2021 tax levy, for the general fund, we have proposed $1,400,000. In 2020, it was $1,285,000, so that is an increase. The city holds one remaining bond, a 2013 bond. For 2021, we have $90,000 for the levy, and this brings our total levy to $1,490,000. Comparing that to 2020 of $1,380,000 is a $110,000 increase. However, as I stated on the previous slides, that tax capacity has been growing due to new additions in town, new valuations, as well as if properties previously had tax increment financing and those are back on the tax roll. So that reduced the hit to the tax rate, and the increase is approximately 1.45%. So the dollar amount has increased, but for each individual taxpayer, that's an increase of about 1.45%. For our debt, as I mentioned, we have one bond. This was originally issued at $1,965,000. We still have $1,120,000 remaining. So that's about $150,000 annually a year, and then we will be paying that through February of 2028. Looking back at our tax levy over the last 10 years, you can see there have been slight increases. It has held steady for quite a few number of years. And right below that top chart shows the changes in it. There was a decrease in 2012, and then it had slight increases up until 2021. However, when you look at the tax rate, and this is what a property owner will feel, that change in the tax rate, that has had a slight decrease the last couple years, and as I mentioned, about a 1.5%, just under, for 2021. Looking forward to our budget, for the general fund in 2021, we are budgeting $2,807,921. When you compare this to 2020 at $2,943,688, we're looking at a decrease in revenues of about 4.8%. The biggest change in this, as I mentioned, is the unknown with the state aid, with our local government aid. We are budgeting that at 80% of our certified amount. We have not heard yet what kind of changes may come into play with the state's budget. That can be reduced or unallotted at any time in the year. So because of the current situations, we had some unease that if we would receive that money or not, so we had budgeted that at a slightly or significantly less amount. Looking at the sources of the general fund revenues, property taxes would make up 50% of the revenue budget. State aids are 28%. About 15% is made up from franchise fees from the electric department. And then we have miscellaneous charges and licenses. Local government aid, as I mentioned, is a big portion of about that 28%. There were decreases up in about 2012, and it stayed steady for a couple of years, moved up slightly in 2014, and started trending up a little more to 2020. And the decrease that we are estimating is approximately $156,000 for that. Now looking at the expenditures, for 2021, we budgeted $2,889,562 compared to $2,938,049. So we have a decrease in expenditures budgeted of about 1.7%. So when planning for that reduction of aid, we also went through all of the line items and tried to find where we can reduce our operating expenses as well as capital transfers to our capital improvement fund. In our general fund, public safety makes up about 28% of the budget, with streets making up 18%. 29% are transfers out, and this can be transfers to our special revenue funds. Most of that relates to transfers for our capital project fund. And then admin and finance are about 15%. Looking at our general fund expenditures over the last 10 years, there's been some slight increases. It's remained fairly steady, and then, as I said, we are budgeting a decrease from 2020. And this chart shows some of the variations over the last 10 years as a percentage. So there was a large decrease in 2012, and then about 2 to 4%. Last year it was significantly higher. We pre-funded some of those electric projects, so most of that increase relates to that transfers out that I was explaining. And now we have a decrease plan for next year. That was a summary of our general fund. We have a number of other governmental funds as well. For our special revenue funds, these are our NADA fund. We have the Senior Center, TRICAP, the Yellow Bike Program. We have a CDBG grant. our ambulance fund and fire department. Many of these are about break even, some are spending down reserves, some are saving a couple. We also have our capital projects. Our big one is our capital improvement fund. This fund is budgeting a surplus of about $522,000, but keep in mind most of those capital expenditures are coming in 2022, hopefully with the bridge and further on after that. We also, with that project, have a Fifth Avenue Bridge project and a number of TID funds, and those are all in and out funds, so they don't have a net budget. And as I mentioned, we have one debt service fund. We are budgeting a levy of $90,000. There's also about $52,000 that comes from rent from the fire and ambulance station, and then about $151,000 in debt service costs. The Public Utility Commission has approved the 2021 budget, and here's a little summary of it. The lighter green is 2020, the darker green is 2021, just to kind of show the difference. The main thing that you will see here in the sewer is their capital of about $11 million, a little more than that. That's relating to the wastewater treatment plant project. And electric revenues and expenses have some decreases, and that's based off of better forecasting of some of the industries. Now looking forward, this year was a big year on analyzing the revenues coming in, how we're spending it. We looked at it as a kind of a multifaceted approach. We wanted to, if we had that reduction in revenues, we didn't want to just plug that in with the levy. We looked all over. So we looked at reducing our operating expenses, which I touched on. We looked at, are we able to push capital projects off, or have we been pre-funding those enough that we can dial back a little bit on the saving for those? We also looked at our fund reserves and felt that they were at a fairly healthy balance where we could pull into some of our savings accounts and use some of that too to reduce that. While using our reserves is beneficial in years like this when we may lose some of our state aid, obviously budgeting at a deficit, which we have at about $81,000 for next year, isn't sustainable year after year. So we wanted to see how can we burden some of that risk now without setting up a harder or more variations for our taxpayers going forward. So we planned out about 5 years and just looked at what could happen, what would that look like. For the estimated tax capacity, we saw about a 5% growth for 2021, and I estimated another 5% for 2022 based off of some properties that will be coming onto the tax roll. Then we did 3% each year after that. For the property tax levy, we increased that roughly $10,000 for 2022, and that would be a decrease in our tax rate of about 2.83%. And after that, then we started plugging in that levy to, use some of our reserves these next 2 years, and then what would we need going forward, projecting about a 3% increase in expenses. So as you can see, it keeps our tax rate kind of spreading that out evenly without having a huge swing in ups and downs. Finally, another fund that we spend a lot of time looking at is our capital improvement fund, and this fund is our long-term savings. This allows the city to kind of manage our tax rate by putting money away ahead of time and saving for these projects, and also reducing our risk or reducing our need to bond for those. So we look at those projects with the different department heads, with our engineers, with city staff, with council, driving around looking at what projects need to be done and planning for those, as well as are we able to push some of those back. We also look at different funding needs. Is there state funding or federal funding available? Are there grants that we can obtain to help reduce some of the expenditures on the city side? This chart just shows the spending for the next 5 years for our capital fund compared to the reserves. The biggest line is that yellowish line for public works. That's our reserve. But as you can see in 22 with this green, that's the capital outlay plans for. And so that reserve balance then starts dipping down. We're spending away that money. With that, I will open it up for any questions.
All right. It is a public hearing, so if there is anybody listening that would like to ask some questions of Tessa, please feel free to talk. All right, it's 6:24. We will be, it'll turn over to the council now. So, here, yes, I just said 6:24, we'll close the, yeah, we'll close the meeting at 6:24.
You can't close the meeting, you have to adopt the resolution at
In the public?
Yes.
Okay, and then we had to do it after. All right. So here, if anybody would like to talk, I'd like to just go in order. Anybody want to say? Want to go first?
About,
Do you want to talk, have any questions?
oh,
or-
no, I'll just point out, I did request to have the, the 10-year total budget draft put in there because I don't know, when we talk about the actual levy, 99% of the time we talk about the levy and how much we're going to levy. But that's only really, what was that, about half to 45, maybe a little over half, the entire actual budget. So we do have substantial sources of revenue coming in from other sources also, the internal transfers from electrical. And so the reason why I wanted that in there was because, and it was maybe even more for myself, was so I could look at how much is our total budget going up. I mean, it's one thing to say we're taxing the residents this much directly by us, from us, but how much are we actually spending? How much are we increasing our spending over the last 10 years? And so when you look at the numbers, it's about 4%. It looks like about 4% is what we're actually budgeting every year increase, about 4% a year over the 10 years. So compounding it turns out it's from 2.1 million to 2.8 million, something like that. So that was just because we could have $5 million coming in from other sources one year and $3 million another year, but it doesn't ever, we don't ever get that total budget picture historically. So I just thought that was beneficial for everybody, just another way to look at how the city is handling the funds that are coming in, not only from the levy, but other sources also. So.
Yep. No, and I appreciated that. Is there anybody else that would like to say anything?
I don't have any questions.
Okay.
Thanks, Dustin.
All right. First action item is to take action adopting the proposed resolution for this. Can I get a motion to approve?
So move.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. The council to take action adopting the 2020-2025 five-year capital improvement plan. Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Now it's 6:27. The meeting, the public hearing is closed. Action item, police policy updates. Who would be taking that? Craig? Craig, are you still there?
Yep, I am.
You want to go over your policy update?
Yeah, so the state has required that there's an update to our use of force and deadly force policies. The majority of what was in there is covered under the updated policy, but what needed to be included was a removal of what is defined as chokeholds, as well as having some definitions maybe modified or changed to coincide with the model policy or the policy the state is looking for. We went through and did all those updates. Doesn't appear to be any issues. We sent it into the state. They said it's substantially cleared, so it means that it's good to go. So we just need council approval to add it back into or add a modified or updated version into our policy manual.
All right.
So, Chief, as I looked at it and as I'm listening to you, it was primarily neck restraints and positional asphyxia, correct?
Right.
Can I get a motion to approve the policy change update?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Ordinance number 12-17-2020, an ordinance summarizing and reaffirming fees for city license, permits, services, establishing a schedule of fines, review, modification, and amendment. Is there any questions? Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. 2021 street improvements, Mr. Mike.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, before I get into the 2021, I neglected in my report to talk about the bridge, and Tessa's presentation reminded me that we will be applying for a local road improvement grant for the bridge. The legislature funded $75 million for local road improvements this year, and they also raised the limit for non-state aid cities from $750,000 to $1.125 million. I don't know that we'll be able to take advantage of that full amount on the bridge project, but I think what we can apply for probably will be certainly our street costs related to First Street North realignment, and any costs on the bridge like sidewalk and those types of things that will be eligible under the state requirements. So hopefully we're successful on that and can reduce the cost of that project. So,
Mike, as long as you mention the bridge, I know we've had some issues with DNR. Are we kind of on track with permitting and surveys and so on and so forth? Because I think we're getting close to about a year away from actually doing something.
yeah, we're getting closer. Our group we had a discussion a week or two ago about, we're still working on some tweaks to the sight distance on the left turn lane of coming off of First Street looking north. We're doing a little, probably some shifting around. I talked to the project manager today, and they're finishing up one more option that we can look at. Hopefully it'll be done by the end of the night tonight or tomorrow morning. But yeah, I think progress with the DNR is good so far. So I think we're going to be getting back on schedule here.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, 2021 improvements. I did pass out, I forgot to put a copy in for the overhead, but the 2021 project includes River Heights Drive from the cul-de-sac on the west end all the way up to 2nd Avenue Northeast, and then Hillcrest Avenue. We did complete pavement corings on that and evaluated that, and our recommendation is that we do a full reclaim, which is grinding up all the bituminous with the gravel. We'll be excavating about 6 inches and then putting that existing gravel back in, and then 3.5 inches of new bituminous. Gary and I did kind of walk the project today. There are some curb issues that maybe if we can kind of take a look at some of these pictures. I guess our question is how in-depth do we want to get with things related to the curb that may be more aesthetic and not as much functional. You know, this we probably want to repair. I mean, that's fairly severe. And maybe next slide, please. You can see some of the offset curbs here. Some of these things could be repaired. These are some of the more extreme, but I guess we're looking for some direction from the council on how involved with curb and gutter do we want to go beyond the maybe functionally necessary and take some of the maybe just more aesthetically unpleasing things out, I guess. And we all hate to have a new street that doesn't look quite finished, if you know what I mean. We did budget, I think, originally for about removing and replacing about 150 feet of curb. I think what Gary has marked up there as necessity probably is within that limit. Some of these
Your
things,
entry is not valid.
some of these things that, we probably necessarily didn't include all, like driveway aprons, those types of things that would be nice to do, but maybe not necessary. This one does have a little bit of wing on it. See, we've got, this one does have a wing, but a lot of the driveways come out straight. The current policy is to have a wing on it. I don't personally feel that we need to remove those and add wings. I think it adds a lot of expense without necessarily a lot of benefit in function. Question?
Real quick, that's obviously somebody paid to have that done, that's their driveway, right?
Correct.
Okay, so if you're wondering about pulling that from the breakout,
Yeah, I think
over out?
probably what we would do is probably saw cut it along here and then saw cut it back here and replace that piece. Certainly if property owners wanted to have more work done beyond the back of the curb, I think we could probably try to get them a price from the contractor if they wanted to negotiate a private improvement.
Right. I was just curious, because, obviously, that was done by a private party. Now it comes to the city. Does the city take care of the problem or not? I know it's splitting,
and it
it's
is
splitting hairs, it's part of the
50-50.
project. And, yeah.
And Gary can probably attest to it too, plow could have got too close or whatever. And,
Oh, that's true.
But the thing is, if it gets, off center, you don't want the plow to hit that and, wreck that blade either, so it can go every which way. I mean,
Is that, so that road, when you guys redo it, is it, like I drove it today just to see once how bad it was, and it's really like, it's mounded pretty high in the middle, like, is that road gonna be more flat when this is done?
Yeah, we would restore like a 2% crown. I mean, normally, and I didn't measure it out there, but it is, why it is, I don't know, but you're right, it is more.
Yeah, I just didn't know, like, if some of that is caused from so much water sitting, like the road not handling some of the slope of the water going towards the drains and like.
No, I don't think so. I think, perhaps some of these things is that water in the gutter may pond and then it kind of gets under the wear course and seal coat types of things. So we want to make sure that the water runs away, as Joe was mentioning, if we've got a 1 inch or 2 inch offset in the curb, that can hold water and pond along the curb line. So we certainly want to take care of those things. Just general cracks that may not be offset, I don't know that we want to go in and try to repair all those. And maybe flip through the pictures here. I guess this is one that, yeah, it's pretty ugly. Is it causing a problem? Today it probably isn't, it's not offset, but we might want to take out that section. Maybe next picture. But this is one of the driveways that that doesn't have the normal wings on it. And I don't know that we would want to replace that. I don't see a huge benefit. It might not be the best looking. Some of the aprons are cracked through the gutter, but I think it'll probably function fairly well for the next 30 years. So, storm sewer, this is a block-built storm sewer structure. You can kind of see the big voids in here. There's a lot of dirt that runs in when the water runs in through the concrete, and it kind of undermines the street, and then the curb settles. So this one definitely we're going to replace. And we want to look at, during the design, I think we want to look a little bit closer at some of the other ones, probably, maybe get some of the leaves out and take a better look at them. So I guess what we're requesting tonight is just some direction on curb and gutter removal. And certainly we can come with a preliminary estimate of the removals that, we think need to be done, then maybe take pictures of some optional ones and let the council decide, if they want to spend some additional money and take care of these things.
yeah,
I just
Gary.
want to make a comment. That road was
built in 1975, so it's 45 years old. You know, and if we do it, we're probably not gonna look at it for another 25 to 30 years. So, you know, the consideration you have to give is, do you wanna put a few extra dollars? You know, some of it might be cosmetic, but, you know, there's some of them areas that do need attention. You know, and that's your decision. It might be a little bit more than what we have budgeted, but it would be done, you know, fairly right. You're still gonna have some issues, you know, with smaller cracks, but we wouldn't tend to those. But there are some areas where 2 curb sections are settled, you know, it'd be nice to fix them. You know,
Well-
it's gonna be a 30-year bill.
I think between you two gentlemen and your experience, that you can probably come up with some consensus areas that you both feel need to be, you know, removed and replaced. If there's a handful where you really can't say one way or another, like Mike said, you know, you throw it at us and say, okay, this one's $800 and this one's $1,000 and that one's $400, you know, if you're just not comfortable. But I think between the two of you, there's enough experience here where you gentlemen definitely know better than we do what needs to be removed and replaced.
Okay, thank you, I appreciate that. We just wanted to run it by and make you aware that there may be a few things that maybe initially weren't budgeted, that we may want to take care of.
I just got, just a real quick question. On your note, you said 1971?
1975,
So the road is 45?
45 years
It
old.
lasted, and we haven't done a mill or overlay on
We
it?
still quoted it 1982, 1993, 2006, and 2014.
Okay. On
That's
that,
very minimal cost, you know. you're probably-
yeah, yeah, on that note, do we need to do a total reclaim on it? Or
Yeah,
could just,
that bituminous is just rock.
well, I know, I mean, reclaim is when you grind up the asphalt, and you grind it into the sub base. It costs a little bit more, correct?
More than a mill and overlay?
Yeah, standard mill and overlay.
Yeah.
Because I'm just wondering, if it lasted 45 years without, you know, why are we doing a reclaim if
Well,
we could just do a mill and
If
overlay?
you want to drive on Country Club
Yeah.
Road, that was a mill and overlay, them cracks were back within a year. I mean, if you do this right, you're not talking about
Yeah.
dollars, but you're gonna get a heck of a
Yeah.
lot better road for a lot more years. You know, we crack sealed that 2 years after it was mill and overlaid, it was unbelievable, the cracks that came back.
Well, and cracks are gonna happen in
Back
all
then,
new pavement from expansion to crack.
Yeah, if I could maybe answer that. I mean, at some point, a mill and overlay just isn't going to give you the strength that you need. The bituminous on this, and I don't have pictures of the samples, and I thought I maybe included them in your packet, but I didn't actually bring the cores. But they kind of deteriorate from the bottom up. You know, we've talked a little bit before. The seal coating takes care of the deterioration from the top, but the moisture, you know, the oil
Gets in
kind
the
of
sub-base.
leaches out of the bottom, and it dries out from the bottom. So the pavement that there really doesn't have a whole lot more strength than gravel. The chip sealing is holding it together right now, but if we go in there to mill, I think we're gonna end up with powder, and then we're gonna be back to the council saying, this mill isn't working, we need to reclaim it. So I would strongly not recommend a mill and overlay, because I think it'll be failure for sure. There's just not enough base strength there to, number one, mill it without busting up a majority of the leftover, and then certainly when you run the loaded trucks on it,
Yeah.
I think you're gonna bust up the rest.
I was thinking total mill. Take all the asphalt off down to the
Well,
grade.
and that's not a lot different in cost than what we're doing. I mean, essentially, we're recycling that. I mean, we usually give the contractor the option to take it off or grind it up.
Oh,
I mean,
okay.
we'll specify it as a removal, but we want to recycle as much of that material as we can.
Right.
You know, that ground up bituminous makes a pretty good gravel. So we're gonna get 3.5 inches of additional gravel.
Mixed in with the
Beyond
base.
what we have
Right.
today.
Does
So
that go into the new bituminous, or is that your base?
That's the
That'll
base.
become your base?
It's
Yeah.
the gravel base, yeah. It doesn't get recycled into the bituminous. That'll be all new material.
Okay. Well, as for the concrete part of it, I agree with Bunker. You guys decide for the better good of the community that way. I always say needs and wants is something that I hopefully consider. But I leave that in your guys' hands with that.
Mr. Mayor, we do have to approve.
Yeah, so I guess
Contract.
the action we're looking for tonight is authorization for WSB to start the preliminary and final design for the 2021 improvements. We had estimated a fee of $29,388. And that includes the design, specification, bidding, construction, administration, and an estimated 100 hours of construction observation. We're thinking that this is probably about a 10 working day or a 2-week project to remove it, replace it. We did meet with Roger Avelsgaard today, and he's going to put in some conduit prior to the start of the project, so he'll have it done as soon as the frost is out, and then by the time we get started, it won't delay the contractor at all. So he's going to take care of that with his forces. So.
All right. Can I get a motion to approve that, please?
So move.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion's carried. All right, comp time policy change.
So as part of the negotiations that we had this year with both the ASME union and LELS, there were two things that were negotiated for both of those contracts that are included in our personnel policy, so they are what need to change for the city overall. The first one that we're going to be addressing is the comp time policy change. It's just merely a language cleanup. So before, it was unclear. If somebody accrued 24 hours of comp time, they could spend that comp time down and reaccrue it, and that's, you know, what people were doing. And we basically said, nope, you get 24 hours or 3 shifts of comp time per calendar year. So you can't, you know, take 24, spend it all down, accrue 24 again, spend it all down. And so we clarified that so that it was just per calendar year. So that is my recommendation, is that the council adopt that policy change for the comp time.
Yep. Can I get a motion to approve the new policy language?
So move.
Okay, second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Let's see here, cell phone policy change.
So actually in July of 2019, there were some significant changes to the cell phone device policy, and that was when the hands-free law went into effect, and so we changed it for that. However, the part that we hadn't changed was the cost share related to cell phones, and we want to get away from that. So basically what we're saying is you either carry a city-owned cell phone or you carry your own cell phone. Those are the options that you have. We only have and we're actually trying to get away from people having their city-owned cell phone. We're actually trying to get to the point where people just carry their own phones because of the smartphones, et cetera. And so we eliminated that second option, and what we're basically saying is there's really 2 ways to do the cost share or the stipend if you own your own phone. If you do not have to have data on your phone, then you get reimbursed at a rate of $25. If you are required to still carry a phone, and if you need data on your phone, then you get reimbursed at a rate of $50. So for example, the SCADA system, our anything related to our customer service portal for the electric, anything that has to do with our alarm systems, those departments have to carry, they have to have that on their phones, so that's additional data. So they will be getting paid at that monthly stipend of $50, whereas anybody else who has to carry or carries a cell phone can get paid at that non-data plan. Again, the difference being is if we require that they have the systems on their phone. So in the case of SCADA system, you know, customer service portal, anything like that, then they get reimbursed at the higher rate.
So electrical and wastewater are probably the
Yep.
$50 an hour people.
Yep, yep. That would be probably it.
All right.
Yes.
Gary, do any of your guys use, I mean, like, I guess I'm thinking like data, I mean, using it with the map on it when they're plowing snow, or like,
Not when-
you tell them to go
there's
somewhere and they're
different
not.
Times it's used, like, a good example is if we're on Fifth Avenue, we have to do some, recording of a storm sewer, there's certain times you do.
Right. I mean, I'm thinking like even email or any of that stuff. I mean, if we only pay somebody for that, is it gonna be like, well, I'm only checking my email in when I go back to the office, or, like, I don't know. I'm just,
So one of,
like, what's the cost difference from what we're switching to? Are we saving a bunch of money from it, or is it actually?
no, it's costing us more.
It's costing us more to move towards this way?
Yes, but what it's doing is it's getting rid of that.
The city of
And it was negotiated as part of the union contracts. They are saying, look, we have to carry all this data on our phones, and it's costing us so much more to have this. So that was part of the union negotiations, is to get that higher stipend.
I'm just more or less saying, like, who do we draw the line to that says, well, you don't need the data on your phone?
Well, I think everyone, their own phones, they carry data, and everybody carries data. Like everybody, even the admin staff has data on their phones.
Oh, you haven't seen my phone.
But I guess it's a matter of what the expectation is. As the administrator, you guys can get a hold of me in theory 24/7, and so obviously that's the case for me. Your department heads, they need to be at that higher rate, because not only do they have to be available, but there are different things for that. People that have to have data, like electric and wastewater, because it's a SCADA system,
Yeah.
that they have to have those alarms on their phones, they would be paid at that. Now, as far as other folks, whether it's admin or the street department, one thing Gary's department does have, they don't use it. It's underutilized right now, but we did purchase an iPad for them to be able to carry out in the field with them. So they do have that capability if they have to pull up the maps or whatever. They have that iPad with a tough case and everything.
Okay.
And I believe that iPad does have a data plan on it. It's underused, but it certainly is one where you could pull up the GIS, you could do all those things with that iPad. Now, I believe that both the electric, the wastewater doesn't, but the electric also has an iPad that they bring on the field. So it's just a matter of, I think the distinction, what you choose to do, but the distinction and the reason we negotiate that as part of the union thing is, their argument was, well, we have to have the SCADA system. You're making us carry the SCADA system on our phones, the alarm system essentially. That takes up data.
Right.
So
No, I
that's
get
kind
that.
of the
I
distinction.
Just was asking, because I don't know, like, the reason why the iPad's underutilized is because you guys all have phones. Why carry a big iPad? I don't know, is that why you think it's?
The iPad is up here now, I think Lisa's using it, so it is used.
Right. Okay.
All right.
No, I'm fine with however, I just was bringing it up, like, who's making the call of whether or not you can have data, or you get paid $25 or you get paid $50.
Yeah, and I think the only way you, again, make the distinction is if it's something that to me, that's the only way you can kind of define that. I don't know otherwise I'd have everybody saying, I'd have all the admin staff saying, well, you know what, I check my emails too, type of thing,
Right,
so.
yeah.
And I recall in our discussions, the major point was that electrical and wastewater have to be able to access that data very readily, very quickly from their personal phones
Yeah.
because of pumps and powers and stuff like that. So, power usage changes, it alarms, pumps not running, wells not kicking in, so they.
All right, can I get a motion to approve the new policy change for the cell phones?
So moved.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Opposed, motion carried. The ASME contract is finalized now, right?
Yep, so the
And so
ASME
we-
contract was approved by the Public Utilities Commission. So we are asking for the council to approve that as well this evening. It was negotiated in good faith with their union steward and the members of ASME, and they have signed off on it.
All right, can I get a motion to approve?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. LELS contract is also finalized, right?
Yep, so the LELS contract was actually mailed to you guys earlier. There was just a couple language changes that the LELS wanted to make sure that we included in there and that it was clarified, and we did do that. So that is another one that is ready for council approval.
Yep. And also, we did a one-year contract instead of...
1 year on both of them, yep. And the reason we did that is because of the insurance. I know there's a very strong desire to move to a 2 or 3 year contract. I mean, kind of silly on our part. I don't know why we decided to torture ourselves with just a 1 year contract, but it just made sense because we just didn't know where we were at with the insurance. So there is a very strong desire to tie it now into a 2 to 3 year contract after this year. So we'll be working on that again this summer
All right.
in 21.
Can I get a motion to approve, please?
So moved.
Get a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Review emergency order, resolution number 2020-63.
So this is the emergency order that you put in place during a special go-to meeting that we had, I believe, yes. Or was that the last council meeting? I
That was
can't
a
remember.
special
No, we had a
meeting
special
after.
meeting. And what was interesting is 2 days or a day after you guys put this in place, we had to use it. So we had a situation where we had to put together a memorandum of understanding between the ambulance and Centricare. And so, you know, by having that emergency order in place, we didn't have to convene the whole council, although we did I called everyone individually to see what your thoughts were about it. But Joe and myself had the ability then to go ahead and get that contract signed and taken care of because it was an immediate thing. So that's an example of where it was used. This emergency order does go through March of 2021. So, you know, I think that with the stuff that we're doing with like, you know, vaccinations and all the COVID stuff that's coming through the county, I certainly as staff would just recommend that you keep it in place. And I think like we talked about before, between myself and the mayor, we were very good about making sure that, you know, I'll call everyone individually if that's how I'm directed to do it, just to talk to you about everything and keep you apprised.
All right.
I'll make a motion just to leave it the way we got it now. And
Bring it up again next
we'll
month.
Review
I
it
want
in
to make sure
January.
that we bring it up on our next meeting.
Yep.
too.
I'll second the motion.
All right, first, second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. New business is liquor license fees.
So in 20, there was a pause by the bars and restaurants from March, I believe, until, I can't remember if it was June. But anyway, the council, at that time, you guys elected to prorate the liquor license fees for those businesses that were affected by the pandemic.
And we're talking just the on-sale license fees?
Yes, I believe,
On sale, Sunday on sale, so you did those two.
Yeah.
So you did, not off sale. but-
no, you didn't do off sale, but you did the on
Just
sale,
on sale.
yes. And so, obviously, those same businesses are now paused again in their operations, and they're not able to meet, and we're coming up on their liquor license fees that would normally be mailed out in January to get, you know, to get paid. So a typical on sale is like $1,700, I believe. So, and I think we also sent you as part of that a comparison of what other communities are doing. Most other communities, they don't have to pay them until June, and so they haven't made any decisions yet. But I just bring it up to your attention to see if there's anything that you would like to do differently with the liquor license renewals.
Do we have a certain fee that has to be paid? Like, do we have filing fees on that, or like, I mean, is there anything that really has to be paid on that?
From our perspective?
Right.
Yes. Or is that just a license that we made that was $1,700 and,
Goes right into the general fund.
okay.
They do have a state license fee that they pay in addition to ours for their liquor license from the state, right? Am I correct in saying that?
They do on the 2 AM, the other, no. I mean,
Oh, they
have to-
don't.
And they have to buy their card to purchase the
Okay.
wholesale liquor, but yes.
So can we prorate the 2021 fees to account for losses of potential revenue in 2020 due to the fact that they weren't open and they weren't selling anything?
So you're saying get rid of, like this year, they're gonna get a liquor license free of cost for 2020?
Well, I don't
You're
know
not gonna
necessarily
buy
free of
free.
cost, but if we can prorate it at 50% or something, because
'Cause-
there are probably going to be some hardships up until March of this year, we know, and whatever the number is, gentlemen, I'm not saying 50% is the number, but they've been getting spanked pretty hard here in 2020, and there's been periods of time where theoretically you can't walk in and order a beer or a drink and socialize, so they were making nothing on their on sale.
I was gonna propose, Bunker, that, and if everybody else is in agreeance, but 2021, I mean, no, you don't have to pay for on-sale liquor license and Sunday liquor license on sale. Because they're hard, even if we 50% it, I mean, they're still getting hit very hard right now. In the winter time is their busiest time, July, June, July, August. People are at the lakes, they're out having bonfires there. So I really don't consider that, even if you prorate it in the summertime, that's not their busy time. The winter time's when they're getting hit hard. Now they're getting shut down from the end of November to who knows when. I mean, I don't know if the middle of January is even something. It could get pushed to the middle of February. Well, then some of our bars, that's it. So I would have no problem doing that. I don't know what everybody else feels, but it'd be our way of, I guess, helping them out a little bit. They don't have to all of a sudden worry about that at all.
Well, I don't even know if it's, it's probably the more ethical thing to do, because you're charging them a fee for a license they can't even use.
Right.
Well, to issue a license though, and maybe I'm going at this wrong, even if it's a $10 administrative processing fee, I think we have to charge them something for the license.
And I'm fine if that's.
Yeah,
what we-
and I don't know
think
what's
that we got-
appropriate, a very small amount just for the administrative processing fee, and it can be a small amount.
I think it should
I think we
be.
have to charge them something,
I would
because
do
otherwise we're
something
just
for
giving away a
documentation.
light, you know what I mean?
Right, and I was just gonna propose that only for 2021. I mean, after that,
And only for holders of the license in 2020.
Correct.
right,
So I can't go apply for a liquor license
Oh,
next year and get,
yes.
I
No,
can't have
$10 license.
parties in my backyard
Yeah,
every
exactly.
Saturday night
Yeah.
and charge?
I guess you got a point on that one.
Yeah. No, that's.
And a small fee, just because then, like you said, it'd show documentation that whoever had it had it.
You know, and a minor fee, just a processing fee for the license. We're not making anything off of it, it's just a minor processing fee, I think is a little bit better way of going about it.
Yeah, I just wanna make sure that it's super minor, that we're not,
yeah.
because I think that is, like Tony said, I mean, that's just.
Because they were
shows
shut
good-
down, what,
Shows
April,
good faith that we're trying to do our best to help you.
April, May, and
Mid-March.
most of June?
Yep, so
And then
mid-March to
limited-
June. Yep.
Limited occupancy,
All the way through the
latter
end
part
of
of
the year.
June, July,
And then
August.
November, they were shut down again?
What month is that collected in? What month is the money collected?
January.
Oh.
So it runs from January to
No, our
January.
license is actually, I send the letter out because they have to still give their liquor license insurance and stuff, so I give them plenty of time to, so I notify them in January, because I have to have everything back by, it's usually on the February council to approve it, then I have to send everything to the state, and then they sign off on it. I mean, even though there's no fee, it still has to go to the state, they still have to sign off on it. So it is a process, so it starts in, I get it out to them as soon as I can, so that they're aware of it, that they can start getting their insurance renewal for their liquor liability and that thing. But their license is actually run March 1st to March 1st.
Okay.
You okay with that?
I'm fine with that. I don't know, do we have to set a fee limit? I mean, what are we thinking? 10 bucks?
Well, $10. Will that cover your postage and everything else with,
I mean, I think at this point, we're willing to eat the labor cost of whatever
Yeah.
Patty's got into it.
Then the other thing you could look at is they're paying property taxes on a facility they can't use
Right.
also.
I
So
agree.
it's not like we're just refunding all of their taxes that they're paying, so a portion of them.
all
All
right,
right,
Well, I'll make a motion that we reduce the on-sale liquor license fee for 2021 for any business that have an on-sale liquor license in 2020. We reduce the price to a $10 fee for 2021.
does that include Sunday?
I'll second that, but include Sunday with that, so the Sunday on sale also.
You good with that?
Yep.
I agree. So there was a first and a second. Is there any other discussion? All right, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. All right, we're on the information items. 2021 boards, committees, commission, there's some applications out there, and there are some that, planning and zoning, there's one for MATA, there's one for Melrose Housing Redevelopment Authority, Parks and Rec Board. So if anybody's interested, they can apply online or call City Hall, and we can give you more information. And then there was utility commission meeting minutes. Otherwise, if there's nothing else, can I get a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried.